Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. This is Bushra Salman. I'm here live on Woman to Woman Forum today with an amazing topic, taboo of mental health in South Asian community. Today we will be discussing why talking about mental health, especially about women's mental health, is a taboo in our South Asian community. और हम इसके मुख्तलिफ जो रूट कॉजेज़ हैं उनमें जाएंगे, उनकी डिटेल्स में जाएंगे और हम एज ए इंडिविजुअल और एज ए कम्युनिटी इसके लिए क्या कर सकते हैं उसकी डिटेल में जाएंगे. आई हैव विद मी some amazing speakers here, and I will tell their names and they will introduce themselves. I have with me Sadaf Inayat. She is a clinical psychologist and practicing psychology since clinical psychology since 8-9 years, and she will give her introduction. And then we have Alina Aslam, who is mental health advocate, and then we have Spina Sarmas. So welcome everyone, and thank you so very much for taking out time from your busy schedule to discuss this very important topic and much needed topic. So I will let you guys introduce yourself. Over to you, Sadaf.
Assalamu alaikum everyone. Thank you, Bushra, for having me. So, yeah, I'm Sadaf Inayat. I'm a therapist and I've been practicing in Lahore since past 9 years. And I mainly deal with clinical population, like, with disorders and personality disorders. And yeah, that's about my introduction, and maybe we'll move on with the topic when everyone else is done. Thank you for having me here.
Thank you so much, Sadaf.
Thank
Happy
you
to
so
have
much,
you
Sadaf.
here.
Happy to have you here.
Can you please put yourself
Can
on
you
mute?
please
Thank you.
put yourself on mute? Thank
Okay, Alina, over to you.
Yeah, hello everybody. My name is Alina. Super excited to be here as this is a very important topic to discuss. A little bit about my background. So I studied both technology as well as psychology. So interested in both of those fields. I currently work as a product manager. And so while in undergrad, I started a nonprofit for mental health, just kind of focusing on destigmatizing mental health for the youth. And yeah, that's a little bit about my background, but I've had a good amount of experience just hosting a lot of events pertaining to that. So I'm super excited to be here and talk more about the topic.
Super excited to have you, and it's amazing background. Over to you, Sabina.
Assalamu alaikum. Mental health is an amazing topic because I'm not mental yet. And to have a brain, you have to think. So this is one of the topics is like people, I get to talk to various women in the community, in the family, and I've come across and some personal experiences that got me more involved into looking at the issues that causes mental health and paying more attention as a person and to support the family, really. So I'm really excited to be part of this conversation.
Thank you so much. It's really important to have everyone have the participation. तो आज हम जो discussion करने जा रहे हैं ये basically taboo पे है. So we are not going to focus on the mental health issues in particular, like what type of mental health problems out there in society and how we can do about it. We want to talk about taboo because that is the first step to make this problem recognize that कि mental health उतनी ही important है जितनी इंसान की दूसरी health, physical health important है. और unfortunately South Asian community में इसकी awareness कम नज़र आती है. और अवेयरनेस के साथ साथ अगर अवेयरनेस हो भी किसी जगह पे और कोई इंसान ये एक्सप्रेस करे दैट आई एम नॉट फीलिंग वेल मेंटली और आई एम नॉट इन गुड मेंटल स्पेस और कुछ ऐसी इंडिकेशंस दे दैट वो ठीक नहीं फील कर रहा, तो उस चीज़ को एड्रेस ही नहीं किया जाता. पहली बात ये, अगर एड्रेस कर लिया जाए समहाउ एक्नॉलेज नहीं किया जाता और उसको समहाउ उस पर्सन का फॉल्ट बना लिया जाता है या फिर उसको नेगेटिवली देखा जाता है. तो इस सब के पीछे साइकोलॉजी क्या है, इसको हम थोड़ा सा अंडरस्टैंड करने की कोशिश करेंगे सो दैट वी कैन मेक पीपल सोसाइटी थिंक अबाउट इट दैट व्हेन दे डू व्हाई दे डू इट. So Sadaf, I would like to hear your opinion because you have been practicing. लोग आपके पास आते होंगे यहाँ से भी. I know you have clients from USA and you have clients from all over the world. You do online sessions and you do practice in Pakistan as well. So जब आपके पास लोग आते हैं इश्यूज को लेके, क्या उन्हें फैमिली की 100% सपोर्ट होती है? अगर होती है, अगर नहीं होती है तो उसमें क्या चैलेंजेस होते हैं और क्यों होते हैं?
बेसिकली हम क्यों पे फोकस करेंगे?
Sure. So, first of all, stigma, I guess one has to be aware of the stigma, that where is it coming from. Like there are mainly two, we categorize it like, two types of stigma. One is public stigma and then there is self stigma. People don't come out of their comfort zone because, there is not enough, mental health education, because it kind of discriminated from your physical health. और आपको पता ही नहीं होता इफ़ यू आर गोइंग थ्रू, अगर आप एक डिप्रेशन का शिकार हैं और यू आर हैविंग दोज इंट्रूसिव थॉट्स, दैट इज़ पार्ट ऑफ योर इलनेस एंड नॉट यू बीइंग अ बैड ह्यूमन बीइंग. सो वन डज नॉट हैव इनफ एजुकेशन. साइको एजुकेशन ही एक बेसिक जो एक सोर्स है वो भी नहीं होता. और ख़वातीन के पास मोस्टली अगेन वही बात है, रिसोर्सेज अगर रिलाई करना है एंड दे हैव टू रीच आउट टू देयर spouse or maybe another family member who is the breadwinner and who is going to support their treatment. So they need to understand that the kid is going through an issue or their spouse is going to issue. Like मेरे पास clients आते हैं और वो अपने in-laws से या अपने spouse से वो छुप के बात कर रहे होते हैं because they know that they wouldn't get invalidation. And there are certain cases जिसमें लोग खुद से भी आते हैं, they're aware of it, but at the same time when they and there comes self stigma there, because when they show up they're like yes we have all of those issues, but somehow they would invalidate कि इसमें हमारा कसूर है, हमारी weakness है कोई. बिकॉज स्टिग्मा में मेनली एक चीज़ जो है वो शेम एसोसिएटेड होती है. ओ यू हैव अ प्रॉब्लम, यू आर अ वीक पर्सन, और मे बी आपका फेथ ठीक नहीं है, स्पिरिचुअली कोप करो, तवक्कुल करो, एंड दे कम्प्लीटली डिनाई द होल न्यूरोकेमिस्ट्री, डोपामिन, सेरोटोनिन डिप्लेशन के जिसकी वजह से, या स्ट्रेसर है कोई, जैसे पेंडेमिक आ गया एंड एवरीबडी वाज गोइंग थ्रू, इट्स लाइक ओ इट्स इन द एयर, सबको हो रहा है, सिर्फ तुम्हें नहीं हो रहा. सो पॉइंट बीइंग कि वो फिर दो तरह के स्टिग्मा, जिस तरह मैंने कहा, तो फिर वो सेल्फ स्टिग्मा भी होता है. उसको पहले बैरियर क्रॉस करके अगर आप किसी को रीच आउट करो वो आपको फिर इनवैलिडेट कर दे, देन यू स्टार्ट क्वेश्चनिंग कि हाँ मे बी आई डोंट हैव अ प्रॉब्लम, देन यू स्टार्ट गैस लाइटिंग एंड गैस लाइटेड एंड गेट कन्फ्यूज्ड. सो इसमें एक ये भी है, एंड देन देर इज केयर, देर इज दिस फेयर ऑफ बीइंग लेबल्ड as crazy person. So I practice at two places in Lahore. One is like a renowned clinic in DHA. People don't show up there because वहाँ बाहर मेरा नाम लिखा हुआ है माहिर नफ्सियात. So they're like, there are people waiting in the waiting area. We cannot come to your office. We would rather go in a disguised place where nobody would know where I'm going to. कि मैं gynecologist के पास जा रही हूँ. They would rather tell that rather than अब उनको infertility के issues आ रहे हैं और उसकी वजह से they are going through depression. So they lie to their spouses, they lie to their in-laws, and they कि मैं gynecologist के पास जा रही हूँ because it is more acceptable. And तो वो एक वहाँ से फिर शेम भी आती है कि मैं माँ नहीं बन पा रही, फिर आपकी सेल्फ वर्थ लो जाती है बिकॉज दैट इज़ योर मेन रोल इन लाइफ, दैट यू गॉट मैरिड, आपका माइलस्टोन था, आपने शादी करनी है और उसके बाद आपको माँ बनना है. एंड इफ़ यू कैन नॉट बेयर अ चाइल्ड या आपको पोस्ट नेटल डिप्रेशन हो रहा है, देन पेरेंट्स ऑल्सो इस तरह से इसका जो मेन फैक्टर ये भी इनवैलिडेट करते हैं हमारे जो बड़े हैं कि हमने तो इससे भी ज़्यादा स्ट्रेसफुल हालात देखे हैं. देयर कम्स द डिनाइल एंड मिनिमाइजेशन कि अगर हमें ये पता चलेगा कि बहू को डिप्रेशन हो गया है, देन पीपल वुड शेम अस कि ये क्या आप लोगों की बहू बीमार है. देन देयर कम्स कल्चरल स्टिग्मा, एंड देन द स्पाउस वुड ऑल्सो बी कन्फ्यूज्ड. बहुत सी खवातीन मेरे पास आती हैं लाइक इफ़ दे आर गोइंग टू मैरी, और प्री मैरिटल काउंसलिंग के लिए नहीं, वैसे जैसे लोगों को कोल्ड फीट हो रहा होता है या वो प्रोफेशनल हेल्प लेना चाहते हैं, साथ में उनको अगर माइल्ड डिप्रेशन भी है, सो देर लाइक अब हम क्या करें, अपने पार्टनर को बताएं, नहीं बताएंगे और कल को जब उसे पता चलेगा दैट आई हैव दिस स्ट्रगल, आई गो टू अ थेरेपिस्ट, देन देयर वुड बी लाइक डिसलॉयलिटी, और अगर बताएंगे तो रिश्ता नहीं होगा. सो दीज आर लाइक, एंड आई हैव सीन दिस अक्रॉस, लाइक अमेरिका में आप लोगों के पास तो पूल साइज वैसे ही बहुत छोटा हो जाता है रिश्तों के लिए, आई गेस बिकॉज देयर इज़ वेरी अगेन लिमिटेड मुस्लिम कम्युनिटी एंड देन again very few Desi. तो ये it's a constant struggle for even if you are in the US or here in Pakistan. So cultural reason है, religious beliefs पे लोग कहते हैं, उसकी वजह से शेम एक इंड्यूस करते हैं. एंड आई थिंक हमारा जो प्रिमिटिव एक वो डिफेंस मैकेनिज्म होता है, जिसको थोड़ा सा एक्सप्लेन कर देती हूँ. डिफेंस मैकेनिज्म हम इसलिए इस्तेमाल करते हैं, आई वुड बी क्विक, बिकॉज हम एंग्जाइटी को फेस नहीं करना चाहते. सो वे मिनिमाइज कि ये ठीक हो जाएगा, इट्स गोना बी फाइन. तो वो इसलिए हम उसको डिनाइल में रखते हैं कि ऑलरेडी कोविड चल रहा है, वर्क फ्रॉम होम हो रहा है, फिर पैसे कम आ रहे हैं, इन्फ्लेशन हो रही है, बेगम को डिप्रेशन भी हो गया हो, इट्स टू मच टू टेक, you will handle it, it will be fine. So we primitively हम denial पे चले जाते हैं. And sometimes people are scared to work on themselves because it's a lot of trauma. और उसकी वजह से फिर एक वो स्टिग्मा एसोसिएट हो जाता है कि अच्छा if you were being abused, if you were being traumatized by your family, by your spouse, so there is again which would induce shame. तो ये कुछ फैक्टर्स हैं जो कि इंटरनल भी हैं और साथ में एक्सटर्नल इनवैलिडेशन भी आपको मिल रही है. सो it makes a whole package
Right.
of stigma.
Right.
Stigma. Yeah.
That's very good.
That's very
that you have segregated into various reasons, individually, community-wise, and culture-wise. But I want you to elaborate a little bit more on. बाज़ दफ़ा ये तीनों चीज़ें नहीं होती. मे बी दैट कम्स इन द कैटेगरी ऑफ इनवैलिडेशन ऑफ योर ओन सेल्फ, या इनसिक्योरिटी में वो बात आती है. आई केम अक्रॉस वुमेन जिसके बच्चे के साथ कोई मसला चल रहा था. शी इज़ फ्रेंड ऑफ माइन एंड हर किड वाज हैविंग some psychological issues, and we discussed as a friend, and then we thought कि ये चीज़ काउंसलर तक लेके जानी चाहिए, because maybe as a parent you won't be able to deal with it. तो उस औरत का आगे से ये जवाब था कि आई ऑलरेडी स्पोक टू माई हस्बैंड अबाउट इट, एंड मेरे हस्बैंड ने आगे से ये कहा है कि अगर हम इस बच्चे को काउंसलर के पास ले जाएंगे तो इसका मतलब होगा कि वी एज अ पेरेंट आर फेलियर टू अंडरस्टैंड हिज नीड एंड टॉक अबाउट इट. सो मेरे जहन में फ़ौरन ये बात आई कि we somehow associate our sense of security with that, कि काउंसलर के पास जाने का ये मतलब नहीं है कि यू आर अ फेलियर, राइट. या जैसे आपने प्री मैरिज काउंसलिंग की बात की, ज़रूरी नहीं कि आपके साथ कोई मसला है तो आप काउंसलर के साथ जा रहे हैं. समटाइम्स आपको लाइफ में चीज़ों की समझ नहीं आ रही होती तो आप काउंसलर के पास जा रहे होते हैं. तो ये चीज़ इस हद तक टैबू बन गई है कि हम अपने नॉर्मल स्टफ के लिए भी काउंसलर के पास नहीं जा सकते हैं. डू यू एग्री? Sadaf, unmute yourself.
बात आ गई ना, ये सेल्फ स्टिग्मा है. येस यू राइट, बिकॉज दिस इज योर ओन इनवैलिडेशन. एंड देन कम्स द डिफेंस मैकेनिज्म, बिकॉज यू आर डिनाइंग, बिकॉज यू डोंट वांट टू फेस ऑल द चैलेंजेस. एक तो आपको $200 इंश्योरेंस भरनी पड़ेगी, या थेरेपिस्ट को यहाँ वेस्टर्न यूनियन कराने पड़ेंगे, साथ में आप पे फाइनेंशियल बर्डन के साथ आपको टाइम निकालना पड़ेगा. एंड देन ऑब्वियसली यू आर एसोसिएटिंग योर सेल्फ वर्थ एज दैट यू आर अगेन unable to perform as a good father or a good mother. Then you're labeling, वो जो labeling की मैं पहले बात कर रही थी कि हमने जाना नहीं है, लोग हमें पागल समझेंगे, then you're labeling yourself as a failure. So again comes a cognitive distortion that you're labeling yourself and again putting yourself in self stigma. अब वो ये ना it's like वो समझ नहीं आ रही कि मुर्गी पहले आया या अंडा, कि वो पहले public stigma हुआ कि वो internalize हुआ या internalized इस वजह से है. तो it's a vicious cycle. And you need to break it by getting out of your comfort zone कि फिर आप बात करें. You need to और एक और चीज़ भी है कि you need to dissociate from your problem, कि अगर आपके साथ मसला आ गया है that does not explain you. If your child, I mean, I have seen a lot of women who are working women over there, उनको घर के भी काम करने पड़ते हैं, they don't have a house help, तो वो बच्चों को उस तरह से टाइम नहीं दे पाती है. तो they are not a bad mother, I mean they are trying to put their best, और इस चीज़ को एक्सेप्ट करके बच्चे पे काम करें. When you label yourself and you think that I am a bipolar woman, no, I have a bipolar disorder. So you need to dissociate your problem from your, self. That's how, you would be able to get out that stigma. फिर वो इनवैलिडेशन का एंटीडोट तो यही है कि आपको कंफर्ट जोन से निकल के बात करनी पड़ेगी. यू नीड टू रीच आउट.
Thank you. So it comes under this. Okay, thank you so much. I would like now Alina to add to this topic or the question, what you have to say about it. Like why it's a taboo in South Asian community talking about mental health.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that, she brought up very good points about, the cognitive dissonance and all of that stuff that really goes into it. But I guess overall kind of focusing more on the stigma within the community. I think things like this are often brushed off as, kind of being different, or, ऐसे ही चीज़ें होती हैं, kind of situation. So I think sometimes at best, what it's identified is as a pattern, right? Like, for example, Hamza, bas aise, like he just has anger issues. Hamza has anger issues. Hamza might, throw plates sometimes. So I think at best, our community often may notice that patterns might be a thing. Um, but it's not often something that is kind of identified as a, legitimate health issue. And so because, a lot of South Asian households don't look at something like this as a legitimate issue, it really does leave a lot of, unresolved trauma. Um, and that in turn, causes a lot of problems for the rest of the lineage, right? Like if you have parents that never, identified traumas or certain mental health issues, then naturally the children wouldn't be able to recognize theirs either. And I think a lot of this, I think something that's often kind of overlooked is really just the power of intergenerational trauma. From the time of like even our ancestors, right? Just internalizing certain trauma, and then after that, like our great grandparents or our grandparents, like how that trauma has kind of reflected between generations, is something that's so often looked over and not thought about. And I think it's so important to kind of note that even though, our ancestors carried certain traumas, it's not to say that, we have the same exact traumas, but it could be notable to point out that, because of the traumas that they had, and because of, them not identifying or trying to fix those traumas, it could have led to some genetic reactions perhaps, right? So for example, higher cortisol levels, or, things of that nature, is also very prevalent. It's also something to very much look into. And yeah, just kind of wanted to shed some light on that topic. So pretty much everything from like even our ancestors going through the partition, or things even before that, kind of leads up to our generation. And I think I come from a place of opportunity to even be able to sit here and identify those things, because obviously during times like this, people aren't thinking of like, oh, like Sonia might be depressed because of this. Oftentimes it was like survival, like can we survive till the next day or the next week? So that's something that I definitely wanted to kind of point out. And I think beyond that, a lot of mental health discussions, at least in America, are often kind of focused around the American ideology of mental health, which is great. It's good to have, discussions about mental health in America, but a lot of times those discussions don't pertain to all different groups. And so I think I had first noticed this in undergrad, where I kind of restarted this mental health nonprofit. And the intention of this mental health nonprofit was not to kind of, limit it to people who kind of looked like me, but I think that your niche sometimes follows you, right? So I happen to be a woman. I happen to be a woman of color. I happen to be a Muslim. And so I noticed that a lot of people that would kind of come to my events would also look like me. Or if they didn't look like me, they would also have immigrant parents or similar backgrounds. So I think that, there's beauty in your niche kind of following you. And from there, I was able to host a lot of different sessions, particularly on, mental health for people of color, or mental health for, people with immigrant parents, because it truly is a different experience. It's not the same experience. And I think it's important to kind of have, reflection upon all of those different domains. So yeah, that's kind of the gist of things I wanted to cover. Do you have any other questions, Bushra?
Yeah, I really like that thing which you said about intergenerational trauma, कि बाज़ औक़ात एक जनरेशन का ट्रॉमा पास ऑन होता है, एंड बाज़ औक़ात जनरेशनल डिसऑर्डर्स तो नहीं, मैं कहना चाह रही प्रॉब्लम्स, मेंटल हेल्थ प्रॉब्लम्स की वजह से डिफरेंट काइंड ऑफ प्रॉब्लम्स जो होते हैं इनहेरिट करते हैं किड्स, राइट? सो यू हैव टू डिसोसिएट दैट थिंग फ्रॉम फ्रॉम बीइंग अ टैबू, और जैसे सदफ ने कहा उसको एज अ प्रॉब्लम लेना चाहिए, नॉट एज अ पार्ट ऑफ योर पर्सनैलिटी और अ फिजिकल ट्रेट और योर ओन ट्रेट लाइक अ पर्सनल ट्रेट के तौर पे नहीं लेना चाहिए कि वो शख्स ऐसा है, उस शख्स के साथ प्रॉब्लम है. सो जब आप ये कैंपेन रन कर रही थी अलीना, तो आपके पास जब साउथ एशियन कम्युनिटी का कोई बंदा या बंदी आते थे तो वो क्या ऐसी बात करते थे कि हमें सपोर्ट नहीं मिल रही घर से या कम्युनिटी से? Then what was the root cause there? What you saw? Because I really want to address community over here in US, and you are very good advocate of that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that that would always kind of be a topic that was reoccurring when there would be people from different backgrounds or different, family dynamics in which things are different, right? And it's not necessarily just for South Asians. Like I've had many people who are maybe from like Hispanic backgrounds and had similar issues of like, immigrant parents and mental health not being a thing that's discussed or talked about. And I think that, really just going into what Sadaf was mentioning, that if there's no conversation about mental health and it's so stigmatized in certain cultures to a point where it's like normal, right? Like I was mentioning earlier, like to the point where at most it might be like a pattern, like, oh, this person cries every single day, or this person gets angry and punches walls every single day. At best, sometimes these things are identified as, like Seth said, like personal weaknesses or patterns, but because they're never identified as, actual mental health issues, because that preliminary like identification isn't there, from there it's really difficult to even go forward and try to figure out a solution and try to make sure that these types of things aren't inherited in future generations.
I agree. Thank you so much for adding your perspectives. So Sabina, what is your point of view? Why talking about mental health is a taboo in South Asian community particularly?
In my opinion, mental health, the discussion about mental health is you have to look at the cause of the mental health. And that is the topics that are really shunned down and shunned upon, and that become a mental health issue. If women are not given an opportunity to speak up their mind or look at their wellness, look at their mental health wellness, that's what actually causes the mental health. Like they have absolutely no support in the family, in the community, where they can actually go and talk about the beginning, at the very beginning of an issue, before it can become a mental health issue. That support, if that lack of that support, it sometimes I feel is missing. And also, in my opinion, is what holds us back as a woman is the fear of being judged, the fear of losing family, fear of being labeled. And also, a lot of times women who are actually one of the strongest, like they have the strength of giving birth, but they are considered the weakest in the community. And being vulnerable is also considered a weakness. You feel like if you talk about your issues, you are being vulnerable, and being vulnerable is a weakness on its own. You cannot talk about your family issues. You cannot talk about things that bothers you. So to me, all these things causes a mental health issue where there is nobody to hold your hand. Does it make sense?
Very good points. So या ये बात करना इतना ही ज़रूरी है मेंटल हेल्थ के बारे में जितना कि आप किसी भी फिजिकल प्रॉब्लम के बारे में बात करें, क्योंकि हम जब बात नहीं करते तो क्या होता है कि बैकग्राउंड में ही प्रॉब्लम्स चली जा रहे हैं. अ फैमिली हु इज अपेरेंटली लुकिंग नॉर्मल इजंट नॉर्मल, एंड देन हमें आउट ऑफ नोवेयर सुसाइड की खबरें मिलती हैं या ब्रोकन रिलेशनशिप्स की खबरें मिलती हैं और लोग हैरान होते हैं, ओ यार ये तो बड़ा हैप्पी कपल था, व्हाट हैपेंड बिटवीन देम? नो, दे वर नॉट, बिकॉज दे वर नॉट एड्रेसिंग the issues going on between them, and all of a sudden things aggravated. and then या फिर not having good relationship. Sometimes it's not broken marriages, sometimes it's like broken marriages while staying married. So it's not that if you're pretending that everything is well, it's really well, it's not that. मैंने अपनी जो मेरा opinion है, और I think I'm just summarizing what you guys said, कि हम सब we tend to pretend in South Asian community that everything is fine because of all these reasons which you guys have described. Either it's self stigma or social stigma, or not giving validation, or not facing the accountability, not taking the accountability of your contribution towards that problem, right? So amazing. I think we all are on the same page, and I wish everybody thinks like that. Now I will come to this second part of our discussion, which is very important: how to address this, like how to contribute towards this breaking up this taboo, like as an individual or as a community. As an individual, I would say, when I'm having mental health problem, or my friend is having mental health problem, or it's not every time mental health problem, sometimes it's like it's not some depression or anxiety episode going on. Sometimes you just want to talk about your feelings, sometimes you just need that mental support. So what I can do for myself, for my friend, and then for the community, what I should do. Sadaf, over to you.
Okay, yeah. So basically, I think generally, because again, I would refer it to external factors, pandemic, and then natural disasters, inflation, what's or not, कि हम बहुत ज़्यादा ना, we have become so self-absorbed that in a very subtle way we have started lacking empathy and compassion for people generally. And we are generally, because we are so drained, our lives are so overly stimulated, and there is so much going on that we don't even sit with our emotions. तो हम दूसरे की क्या empathy, और हम अपने साथ ही empathetic हो जाएं, पहली बात तो ये है, it's again very difficult. So I think the first thing is self compassion. That should be there, because again, if you have the ability to empathize with yourself, you would be able to empathize with others. And people say that you should be in a better headspace to listen to others. I disagree with that, because mostly I conduct support groups, and all of those people are going through, like, and it's very interesting, they come from different family backgrounds, and even it is like they are both genders, but they would have the same exact thoughts, same patterns, and they would get validation. Like Alina was saying, like she was she has done cross culture thing, like she had the most उस तरह से interaction इनका काफ़ी हुआ, but they all and everything, so there was relatability despite the fact कि वो उस वक्त कुछ कर नहीं सकते practically, but they were there and they feel validated. So the first thing, on I guess personal level, it would act for the public stigma as well, that one should empathize and show compassion. And then just talking about it, just like we're doing it right now. And I've seen this trend, like it is like now it's going very well, कि Facebook पे और Instagram पे लोग post करते हैं, एक बड़ी वो copy paste post होती है. But I know a few people, I know few of my clients who would tell me कि हाँ, फिर मैंने इस तरह एक दोस्त से बात की, I never knew her, she was an acquaintance, I told her because she mentioned about her struggle. So kabhi kabar, agar if you have gone through the same thing, maybe just tell people. I've seen this trend also, influencers, Bollywood, Hollywood mein ab log batate hain that they have gone through depression, and to normalize this, ye normalize kare hum. Aur ye, I think again वही बात है, people who are active on social media, वो फिजिकल फिटनेस पे तो बहुत, आपको एक ऐड देखेंगे तो उसके बाद इतने फिजिकल फिटनेस के आएंगे कि आपको बॉडी इमेज इश्यूज होना शुरू हो जाएंगे. तो सोशल मीडिया कैन ऑल्सो हेल्प इन दैट, एंड जस्ट स्प्रेडिंग द अवेयरनेस दैट यू नीड टू वर्क ऑन योर न्यूरोकेमिस्ट्री एंड ब्रेन के मसल्स पे भी फोकस कर लें, या बॉडी शेप से ज़्यादा अगर आप न्यूरोकेमिस्ट्री पे फोकस करें तो बेहतर है. सोशल मीडिया का भी बहुत रोल है इसमें. एंड अगेन सीक आउट सपोर्ट इन एनी फॉर्म, खुद भी आप दें. और कभी कभार ये है कि जैसे मैंने बहुत से लोगों को ये देखा है, दे लकीली दे नेवर गो थ्रू डिप्रेशन और एनी मेंटल इलनेस, और उनके इर्द गिर्द भी सब लोग, लकीली देयर वर वेरी फ्यू पीपल, दो मोस्टली वैसे डिनाइल में होते हैं, उन्होंने नहीं पता होता कि क्या है. बट एट द सेम टाइम वन कैन बी फ्लेक्सिबल, एंड अगेन इट कम्स टू एम्पैथी, कि अगर आप एक प्रॉब्लम से नहीं भी गुजरे, यू कैन जस्ट बी देयर. और ये कि और हमें दूसरा, पाकिस्तान में तो बहुत है हमारे देसी कल्चर में कि मशवरा बहुत देने की हमें आदत है, and we just right away jump to the solution. Sometimes people don't need a solution, they just want to cry, they just want to rant, and that's about it. So just be there, comfort them, listen to them, and then obviously you can, again, अगर आप पेरेंट हैं और आप मदर हैं तो आप अपने बच्चों के साथ इस कॉन्वर्सेशन को नॉर्मल बनाएं, बिकॉज मोस्टली विद बॉयज़, यंग बॉयज़ हु आर बीइंग बुलीड, हु आर बीइंग टीन एज इशूज़ अगैन, कि वो बात नहीं कर रहे थे, सेक्स एजुकेशन स्टफ लाइक दैट, यू नीड टू बी वोकल अबाउट इट. ये घर की फ़ज़ा में होना चाहिए. Talking about mental health, just like we force them to eat healthy, we can tell them to think in a healthy way, and what is a healthy way of thinking. So ये mothers का एक बड़ी responsibility है. और अक्सर मैं cases में देखती हूँ कि जिनकी mothers थोड़ी सी well read होती हैं, self help कर रही होती हैं, और बच्चे को फिर भी कोई ADHD या कोई इस तरह से developmental issue है, उनका prognosis बेहतर होता है, there are more chances of betterment. So that's how you can, और ये early teens, प्री टीन से ही आपको बच्चे के साथ ये करना शुरू कर देना चाहिए. एंड सेम गोज़ फॉर अगेन फेलो वुमेन, अगर आपकी क्लासमेट्स हैं या आपके कॉलीग्स हैं, लाइक अलीना सीम्स लाइक हैव अ मल्टी डिसिप्लिनरी लाइक करियर, शी डज प्रोडक्ट मैनेजमेंट एंड देन शी डज दिस. सो मे बी obviously you must have done that at your workplace if you've seen someone. बिकॉज वो बुशरा ने अभी जो बात की, जो और सबीना ने भी बात की कि हमें औरतों को रिजिलियंट होने का इतना लेबल लगाते हैं कि हमें फिर होना पड़ जाता है रिजिलियंट. वी बेयर अ चाइल्ड, वी डू एवरीथिंग, वी रन द हाउस एंड वी वर्क बिकॉज ऑफ दैट. एंड इट्स हिडन डिसेबिलिटी. मेंटल हेल्थ डिसेबिलिटी में किसी को नज़र तो नहीं आ रहा कि टांग टूटी हुई है एंड या आँख से नज़र नहीं आ रहा. समबडी इज़ नॉट ब्लाइंड बट समबडी इज़ लाइक इमोशनली नाम. सो यू कैन कैमोफ्लॉज इट ईजीली. एंड women who are resilient, उनको तो फिर they are mothers, they are sisters. Sometimes अगर वो siblings में सबसे बड़े बहन भाई हैं, बहन है particularly, so they have to act as another mother. तो वो बहुत ज़्यादा एक emotional responsibility आ जाती है. So maybe if you are a younger sister, you can go up to your elder sister and ask and reach out कि अच्छा, just ask how are they doing, just the basic thing, and just listen to them, don't advise. Yeah, and maybe as a society we should start support groups and educating people like this. This would be really helpful. We should keep this going.
Right.
राइट.
सीमा कह रही हैं कि बाज़ दफ़ा आप अपने फ्रेंड से भी बात नहीं करते क्योंकि आपको फियर ऑफ जजमेंट होता है. आई थिंक इट्स वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट दैट वुमेन सपोर्ट अदर वुमेन. सिंस वी आर ऑन वुमेन टू वुमेन फोरम, सो वी आर emphasizing today that when somebody comes to you and tells your story about something bad happening in marriage or something bad happening with parents or anything, so believe her. Like, if somebody is disturbed, it's their story, and you are calling yourself a friend to that person, so you got to believe, right? So हमारा ये जो जजमेंट पास करना है ना, जजमेंट का जो फियर है वो ये कि वो ये कंसिडर किया जाएगा इट्स माय फॉल्ट दैट आई इस पूरे रिलेशनशिप में मैं गड़बड़ हूँ. और दूसरा ये कि एक जो मुस्लिम सोसाइटी में, अभी आयशा का मैंने क्वेश्चन देखा कि मुस्लिम सोसाइटी में इस चीज़ को बहुत ज़्यादा किया जाता है कि यू आर बीइंग अनग्रेटफुल. तो ये जो जजमेंट का फियर है और फियर ऑफ बीइंग कॉल्ड अनग्रेटफुल, दैट वुड बी दैट इज़ ऑल्सो समथिंग जो कि क्लू है हमारा ब्रेक करने का, कि अगर कोई हमारे पास आ रहा है तो हमने उसको ये नहीं कह रहा कि तुम अनग्रेटफुल हो रहे हो. तो इसके बारे में अलीना, डू यू हैव समथिंग टू से? ये जो 2 पॉइंट्स है, जजमेंट का और जो अनग्रेटफुल का जो टाबू बेसिकली लगता है, व्हाट वी शुड डू?
Absolutely. So I kind of want to go back to the first question. I'm going to bridge my way into this one. So I know originally we were trying to discuss how we can help with the stigma on an individual level as well as on a community level. So individually, and I know this is probably a very basic response, but I do think it's so important to just kind of have some acknowledgement, right? So for example, if you find yourself having anger issues, or you find yourself getting really anxious in, say, like a social environment or whatever it might be, really just kind of pondering on those things and asking yourself, like, hey, like, why is this bothering me? Why is somebody, making a slight comment about weight really bothering me? Or why is, being in a social setting really making me anxious? And I think that this in itself really bridges that gap to an extent, because once you're acknowledging these things, only then you can start to kind of configure a solution around it. So I think on an individual level, that's what I would recommend. Just, if you find certain things or certain patterns being repeated, you find yourself being bothered by certain things, a lot of times those things can be triggers. So it's definitely important to kind of be aware and just have self-acknowledgement for certain things. And so going forward, like on a community level, I know Sadaf was talking a lot about this, but I think it's so important to kind of have communities in which it's easy to speak about things, right? So even if a lot of people come from the same background and they don't necessarily have a solution, sometimes just sitting there and talking about it is in a way helpful. It is kind of is the solution. So I think that in itself will kind of, decompose the stigma, because it's like you're sitting in a room and it's like, oh, like this problem isn't just with me. There's other people who look like me, who might not look like me, who, might have the same role as me, might have different roles as me. But at the end of the day, we come together and we have the same issues. So I think having open communities in which we can really discuss things like this can be helpful. And so that kind of going back to Aisha's question, I think that is a way in which we can overcome the stigma in the Muslim community, is just to have continuous conversations, right? Create groups in which we can talk about this kind of stuff. Or if you have children, create a space in which you talk about mental health. I think that's really the first step. I think a lot of times, we want to jump to solutions immediately, like, oh, like fix this problem and do it this way. But, I truly think the first and probably the most important step is acknowledgement, right? Create that space to talk about it. And really just foster an environment where other people can really be comfortable speaking. And I think that's a very good first step. So yes, that's how I would answer that question.
Yeah, you did, and I like the fact that start normalizing it by talking about it, right? Like I feel it that women who have hormonal issues, for example, thyroid, PCOS, it's very easy for them to come and say, hey, I have a thyroid problem, or I have a PCOS problem, or I have other hormonal issue, gynecology related problem going on. But nobody is ready to listen that those problems are caused by, for example, high cortisol level in your blood, and high cortisol is caused by the stress in your life, and nobody is going to is ready to listen to the stresses in your life, the problems in your life, or the mental health related stuff, right? They, when it's physical illness, is easy to get the empathy from the community. So we have to start talking about it, just like we are talking about any problem on our dining tables, like any physical health problems, any other problems going on. So thank you. That was amazing perspective. Over to you, Sabina. What you have to say about it? How we can contribute towards it, towards breaking the taboo?
To me, very important part is not to be silent and suffer. It's, if you're suffering, speak up, and that's where the community and comes in. That if somebody comes to you and say, hey, this is going on, don't advise them, as Sadaf said, is go back, or it's okay, it's gonna be all right, just sabar karo. These are the things that make them doubt their own knowing. They know they're suffering. Trust them, let them talk, let them speak up their mind. And it's very, I mean, it's very important to have a forum like this where and have a support groups all over the place, especially in the local community. It's very important. And more than that, there was a time when before Islam, where little girls after birth they used to bury alive, but we are doing the same thing right now by letting them bury themselves in their own suffering, in their own issues. So it's very important to hold each other's hand and not to judge. If somebody say, hey, this is happening, okay, don't judge them, don't tell them to, it's okay, it will be over. Sometimes it's not, they may die suffering, and they may never get the opportunity to speak to anybody else but you. So remember that as a community, as an individual, if somebody is coming up to you, it takes a lot of strength. It takes a lot of strength to talk about your issues, because this is where you're actually first step in believing yourself.
I love the notion. I love the analogy you gave about the days of dark period when I think unfortunately that dark period is still going on, that we are suppressing our women. And if society is suppressing, we as a woman at least can do this thing, that we can be support, we can be there for each other. So thank you for adding a great perspective, Sabina. That's really important. Woman validating woman's emotion, right? So the second thing is, uh, I think we would like to wrap up the top this whole um, discussion. We have approximately 5 minutes left for our session. So is there anything else which is remaining which you guys want to add to the topic? Sadaf, Alina, Sabina, feel free to speak up.
Who wants to go first? Alina, do you have got something to say?
Nothing much to add, but I was just
Okay.
gonna say I appreciate,
I
Bushra for hosting this, as well as everyone else on this panel, as well as everyone in the comments, because I think this truly is a good way to kind of start to destigmatize the topic, is just having open conversations. So that's all I wanted to say. That thank you for hosting, being part of the panel. Everyone
Yeah,
else
no,
jumping in.
thank you
No, thank
for
you
Yeah,
being
I
being
wanted to
being
add something, Bishra.
sure. Sure, go ahead.
Yeah, so
Go ahead.
basically, maybe, just like we have this, maybe we can keep apart if we, move on with this, or you can keep in this format that people can drop in question anonymously, where, maybe there are stuck women who are listening to us, or, so that, we can help them, like, okay, somebody is going through a lot of emotional irregulation and they're having trouble in their life and they want to speak up, but there are certain barriers they want to, उसके लिए भी उनको कुछ बात करनी कि अगर मैं हस्बैंड से बात करूँ तो मैं किस तरह से बात करूँ, or maybe is there a scenario like I want to talk to my father about my issues. So maybe, we can help them, they can drop you, and we can maybe send them answers or maybe solutions, or we can, carry our next session with that, so that, we'd be able to actually help and make it more interactive and, helpful for others.
That is amazing suggestion, and definitely we will work towards it. Actually, there is a lot to talk about it, because we just started talking about taboos, and then in order to break that taboo, we need to talk about various mental health problems. Like, it's in order to prove that it's not somebody's fault, we need to go into details. Like sometimes it's your suppressed emotions, like Sabina said, the person is really healthy, but since he's not getting any place to vent out, so that suppressed emotions are causing some havoc inside, and it is emerging as anxiety or any kind of disorder or depression, right? And sometimes it's really just the game of hormones, right? And just chemical imbalance in the brain. And sometimes it's trauma, sometimes it's postpartum depression, which is highly ignored in our society. So you are right. We should provide women this forum. Start to listen other women in person in our lives, and then on the forum as well. So we'll definitely do something about it. Great suggestion, Sadaf. One aspect I think is remaining, and since we have couple of minutes on hand, I just want to add, since it's a Muslim woman focused group, I want to talk about the concept of sabr and being ungrateful briefly. That we should not associate, if somebody is reaching out to a therapist or counselor or a friend for the mental health help, we should not associate it with the ungratefulness, and we should not advise it to do sabr, because that is very common in Muslim community. Not any American counselor you will hear to give us the lecture on patience. Do you agree? If you guys have something to say about it, we will wrap up our session, because it's a very important point in breaking the taboo.
If you don't mind, I would like to add that being patient is for something that you cannot change, but being patient for something you can change should not be a patient. You should change it. If you're suffering, take a step, move forward, change it. Don't suffer in silence, as I keep saying that. Patience is for enduring difficulty in prayers. It's fine, but if somebody is hurting you, speak up. Don't be patient.
Amazing point.
you're making yourself a victim there. Then
Amazing point.
Some
Alina and
Alina and
Sadaf
Sadaf
has to do
has to do
something.
something.
Yeah, I would say that's not patience, that's self-neglect. And I think Islam doesn't preach self-neglect. I think Islam says that, you should take care of your body, your mind. There are references in a hadith. I mean, I'm not a scholar उस तरह से, but I mean, I have read उस लोगों के पास जाते थे, आप मशवरा करते थे, सहाबा भी करते थे. There was premarital counseling, and even before, divorce, there is some references, I guess, where they would tell कि ये मसले चल रहे हैं मेरे, or there was this discussion about it. सो इस्लाम में, और ये अगेन सेपरेशन की ऑप्शन और डिवोर्स की और वुमेन राइट और हर चीज़ के बारे में, ये तो कल्चरल एक वो प्रेशर है, वो तो उसकी वजह से चेंज हो गया है. एंड वी यूज़ इस्लाम जस्ट टू कंट्रोल अदर्स बिहेवियर्स, क्योंकि उसकी वजह से ना ज़रा आसान हो जाता है हमारे लिए अपना गिल्ट कम करना भी और कुछ उसके बारे में करना. सो आई वुड से दैट्स नॉट सबर, दैट्स सेल्फ निगलेक्ट, एंड वी नीड टू रीडिफाइन सबर, जस्ट लाइक सबीना पुट इट डिफरेंट वे.
Thank you so
Thank you
much.
so much.
Alina, your opinion about it, particularly sub and that concept of.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think that Sadaf kind of covered what I was going to say. But yeah, I do think that I think it's good to have sabr. Just want to say that. But I think that it could often be used as self-neglect, and I think to that extent it's not good. But yeah, I completely agree with Sadaf. Really would just would just kind of indicate to align my
Awesome.
opinion with what she said.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I think we covered what we could. It's a big topic, but I would love to have more discussions around it, like I said, various types of depressions and how to approach towards cure and what are different strategies to approach it. And everybody has a different situation and different kind of problems. So maybe we will have dedicated session for each of the topic in future. I will definitely keep you guys posted about it and would love to have you again on the panel. Thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you. Thank you
Thank
for
you so
having
Thanks
much.
us.
everyone.
thank you.
Thank you. Take care. Bye.